Welcome back to Self Made. This is episode 7. We're going to be talking about a revelation that I made today. I was just talking to one of my friends who's been in business for a long time, as have I. I've been in business since I was about 16, and I'm 22 now. So I've got about 6 years in this game. I built a lot of businesses. I built about 4 or 5 e-commerce brands that didn't really go anywhere. One of them did okay, but overall it wasn't really a good ROI on my time and the money that I put into it. I had a restaurant marketing business, I had a marketing agency, and I had started a couple other businesses here and there. And that's what led up to where I am today. So it wasn't just one business that ended up being an overnight success. There were a lot of different businesses on the way here. But an interesting, I guess, revelation that I made today was I was talking to this friend who has been in business for a long time, kind of alongside me. We've always been sharing ideas and bouncing experiences off each other. And it kind of made me think about all the friends I have in business who I've known for a long time. There's been so many people who I've been speaking to on and off for years about business, and I've seen them grow and transition from business to business and fail and succeed and then fail again and succeed again. And it just made me realize that the people who succeed in the end are just the people who endure. And what I mean by that is the people who succeed are just the people who stick around, the people who go through all the hardship and then come out the other side a stronger person. So many people give up in the first couple of months, and I've seen plenty of people like that. I've seen people come through into the business, and within a couple of months, they're not getting the traction that they wanted. They're not getting the customers they wanted. Things are happening. They're having problems staff or customers, and they just give up. I see that a lot, but I also see a lot of people who stick around even through all that stuff in the beginning, and they end up becoming super successful later on. Some people wildly successful. I've seen people who've come into the same business as me after I've already been in it, and they've become a lot more successful than I am now, a lot quicker than I did. So it's just really interesting to see that and to kind of watch it develop in other people. And it just made me think that there's a lot of people like that in business today who they go into it thinking that they're going to do really well. And when they don't, they give up. They go back to their nest egg. They go back to their safe haven, which might be a job for them. It might be whatever degree they have, they fall back on that. So this happens a lot in cleaning. A lot of people come into it, into the industry thinking it's going to be really easy, and they can't get customers in the first couple of weeks, or they have a bad experience with a client, or they feel like the market's too saturated and they're not doing well, and they just leave and they go back to their job and they say, well, it's a bad business, or it's a bad time, it's a bad market, no one can succeed. And those are the people that don't go anywhere because they left and gave up before they even gave the business a chance to flourish. And so, just speaking from my own personal experience, I've watched dozens of people grow and become really successful entrepreneurs just because they endured that first year or two of not making much money, figuring things out and going through all the peaks and valleys that come with a business. And I think when you shift your perspective from like, this is a business, I've got to make money from day one, to the mindset of this is going to be a learning journey for a while, and I need to be able to go through this experience and endure it and put up with it in order to get to the other side, in order to get the reward of having a good business. And it's like, in my mind, I've traded a university education for this business education. Because when you go to university, you go 20, 30, $40,000 in debt, and you lose 4 years of your life just learning something and not making money in those 4 years. That's not really that different from if you go and start a business and you spend 3 or 4 years not making much money at all. At least in this case, if you start a business, if you start a cleaning business, for example, you don't have to put any money into it. First of all, you only need about a couple of $100. And then in the first couple of years, you're going to be making money. There's no doubt about that. You're not going to be making a ton of money, maybe, but you will be making money. But the most important thing to know is that in those first couple of years, mainly in the first year, it's just a learning curve. You're going to be learning the business inside and out, especially if you've never worked in it before. You're going to be figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. You're going to be experiencing failure and then adapting based on that. And that is your education. That is more valuable than going to university and learning theory, becoming book smart about something. The best way to learn something is by doing it. The second best way to learn is by learning from someone who's done it before you. And then the next best way is to just go and learn, the theory of everything. So a university education is so far behind the real world experience of owning a business. And if you start a business when you're young, around that time, people going to university, you don't have to go into debt. You get to make money along the way, and you ultimately end up with a much more valuable education than something university could have ever offered you, because now you know how to live completely independent of anyone else, and you know how to completely sustain yourself. Because if you know how to make a business, if you know how to sell, if you know how to get customers, then you're set for life. You never need to answer to anyone. You don't ever need anyone's help, and you don't need to rely on another man or another woman to pay your bills. Okay, so this education that you're having now, listening to this podcast, having a business, just reading things about business, watching YouTube videos, this is more valuable than anything you could ever experience in your life. And if you're at the beginning of your journey, I want you to realize that everyone starts there. It's the people that succeed who realize that everyone needs to go through that necessary evil of failing a lot in the beginning. It's just baby steps. You're going to fall over a lot in the beginning. There are things that you need to, like I said, endure before you can get to that successful side of the business where you're at a point where you're making money and things are starting to look up. But especially in a service business, it isn't overnight. It's not even over a week or a month or a year. For some people, it can take 5 years before they're achieving the level of success that they were looking for. And it's really important that you don't give up. It's that simple. I've seen it so many times, people who took a long time to get the ball rolling in the beginning. Especially me, it took me a long time to get it going in the beginning. It took me 3 months before I even got my first client. But the point is, most people just quit before they get to that first client. So most people in my position would have just left within those first 3 months. But I think for me, I was pretty much forced to stay in that position because I didn't have anything to fall back on. I'm a high school dropout, so I didn't even have the ability to go into university without first finishing high school, which is just like another 3 years. And then I've got to go to uni, which is another 4 or 5. And so I was kind of forced into a corner where I just had to fight my way out and do well in this business. And so a lot of people just have like the luxury of having something to fall back on. Like some people you might be a nurse who goes into business, and then when the business doesn't work out, you're like, oh, well, I'll just go back into nursing. I'll just go back and work in the hospital, or I'll just go work in a cafe because that's a lot easier than running a business. Business is hard. Business is not supposed to be easy. And the people who understand that are the people who do well. Okay, business is not that difficult as long as you spend enough time in the game to figure out the fundamentals. And once you've got the fundamentals down, it is damn near impossible not to succeed. Okay, you might not be a multimillionaire, you might not be super, super rich, but you will do well. And you're going to have a business that you own. You're going to have an income that you own. You're going to have full control and freedom over your life. And for me, I know that's the best thing that I could ever ask for. Having that autonomy over my own life and my own finances and my business, it's better than anything. And so it was just an interesting realization that I made when I kind of looked back on all the people that I've known throughout the years who have gone into business and quit and stayed, and just looked at it like that. It's like the people who are successful are just all the people who stuck around. There aren't people who I knew 6 years ago who started a business who are still in business today and aren't doing very well. Literally every single person is doing well now because they stuck through those first couple of years where it's like the learning phase. And yeah, it's just, it's really cool, one, to see all these people doing it. It's really cool to watch their journeys. But what's even more cool is to be on that journey yourself and to have that in the back of your mind that this is just a necessary evil. Going through the first year of business, it's hard. It's learning. But if you embrace it and you trust the process and understand the process, then you're going to do well. But just you have to know that there's going to be failures. There's going to be hardships and there's going to be setbacks, and you have to push through them. Even when you get to the point where you're successful in business, a lot of people fail. A lot of people lose it all, and a lot of people don't bounce back from that. But I tell you what, the people who become really, really successful, they had a massive failure that they experienced once before that, and then they just 10x'd whatever they had before that. Good example of this is Russell Brunson. He's this big digital internet marketer guy. He owns a company called ClickFunnels, which is something I used to build websites. He used to have a company back in the day. This was in like maybe the early 2000s or the 90s. He had a company that employed about 30 or 40 people. He was doing really well. He was making probably about $5 million a year, something like that. And one day he just lost it all. The business started going south. Google started making changes to their algorithms and the way they push things out in the search, and the business just crumbled. And a lot of people at that point, if they lose a $5 to $10 million business, they don't bounce back from that. But Russell Brunson, being the smart, savvy marketing guy that he is, he was resilient enough to push through that and try again. And now he's built a company that's worth over $1 billion. There's a lot of people like that out there. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but a lot of billionaires in the world have started successful businesses before their big business now. They failed, and then they came back bigger than before. Because failure really does shape you as a person. It instills things in you that are going to carry you forward and allow you to kind of take your previous success and then build upon it to the point where it just snowballs, and it's like this new monster that's bigger than anything that you could have imagined before. It's bigger than the thing you built before, and it's like as soon as you experience that failure is like the best teacher, because when you do something and it fails, you know not to do it again, and you kind of inherently just figure out a way around that, and you create like a contingency plan for that in the future. And it's like, this is the best way to learn, is by doing it and failing and succeeding. It's not by reading off of a book or watching a video. It's just by doing it. And it's just a matter of mindset and perspective. And I guess another realization I made today was, this is another perspective-based thing, is that going back into the cleaning business, the way you price things is it's so mental focused. It's so psychology based. It's just rooted in our brains, the way that we price things and the way that we perceive price. And so, like, you see people in the Facebook groups like in the cleaning groups, they're all saying that they can't increase their prices, or they're scared to increase their prices because they don't want their customers to turn their nose up at the price and then lose that customer. But being someone who wasn't making any money to where I am now, making a lot of money, it's made me realize that people who have money, who have that abundance mindset, they don't care. Like, money just isn't really a variable to them or a metric to them. Like, I have clients who are worth close to $1 billion. I have a client who I'm pretty sure is worth over $1 billion, a very, very well-known person in the country even. And it's like, once you realize that these people just don't care about money at that point, they're just so far beyond that you can just charge them whatever you want. And as long as you're delivering the thing that they want to pay for, which is the result of a clean home, price is completely out of the question. And so when you take that back down to a more micro level, when you're thinking about just dealing with everyday people, most people aren't going to care about a $10 price increase. If they can afford the luxury of having a house cleaner, that sort of price increase isn't going to really move the needle for them. They're going to be like, whatever, yeah, if you're doing a great job, so we're happy to pay you the extra. Even if you're going for a big price increase, depending on the people that you're dealing with, it's not going to be an issue. And there's like this tipping point where bad customers kind of transition into the good customers. So the people who have always been paying like $20 or $30 an hour If you try to increase them to $60 an hour, they're not going to budge. They're going to resist that. They're not going to want to do that. They'll just go find someone else who charges $30 an hour. And that's because they're the poor people, they're the sort of lower end of the market that you don't want to deal with. They're people who really don't have money. And then once you kind of go into that upper end of the market where there's people who have been paying like $60+ an hour for their whole lives for a cleaner, you can up them from $60 to $120 an hour within reason, and it's not going to matter to them because people at that level aren't paying on price. They're just paying on like your brand, the service that you have to offer, and the quality of the service that you deliver, and like the security and the peace of mind knowing that you're going to take care of it and it's one less thing they have to worry about. And so now, me being someone who has money, at this point, it just made me realize like all those times I worried about increasing the price on someone, it was just wasted energy because those people don't care about the money. They never did. I was just coming from that poor mindset of like, if I was in their position, if my cleaner upped the price by $50, I would be like, that's insane. That's so much money. I can't afford that. I couldn't afford it as it was. And it's just like, now that I have money, it's just opened up my thinking a lot more. It's changed my perspective. And I have this abundance mindset where I don't get anxious about price increases anymore. Like, I understand my market a lot better because I understand what people with money are thinking. And even though I'm not at that level that a lot of my customers are at in terms of like the amount of money I have, I've got enough of an understanding of it to be able to relate to them in a way which eases the burden on me when I have to make decisions like that. And so when I see all those people in the Facebook groups and on TikTok saying that you can't charge those prices and that they get really anxious when they have to do a price increase because they think they're going to lose a lot of customers, that's a poor mindset. As soon as you shift to an abundance mindset and you realize that the people that you're dealing with either have or don't have money, hopefully you already have people who are at that higher end of the market. But chances are, if you're charging peanuts, then you're dealing with that lower end of the market that people like me have never, ever dealt with in the first place because they're just bad news. People who don't have money, they live in not so nice homes. They don't take care of them because that's just the way that people without money live. They're messy. They're not very disciplined. They're not tidy. They just don't have the same values that a lot of wealthier people do. And that's not to say that, poor people or all poor people are like that. But it's definitely something that I observed when I started out in my business. As soon as I started transitioning to higher pricing, I started dealing with people with more money who had nicer homes, and inside those nicer homes, they were so much more tidy, and the people I was dealing with were just a lot nicer, and I wasn't really getting hassled much anymore. Like, people who charged or who paid me $30 an hour, I'd be hearing from them like every week. There'd be something new they wanted, or there'd be something they weren't happy with. And the people who have the money, they don't care. They just want to come home to a clean house. They're not going to nitpick everything. I say that, I'm generalizing here. I'm just speaking from my own experience. Of course, not everyone is how they're labeled. Not everyone, or not everything is as it seems. So there's plenty of great customers out there who are probably, paying $20, $30 an hour. And if you increase the price to 60, they'd be okay with it. But I think there's a lot more bad customers on that lower end of the market than there are good. And as soon as you shift your perspective, first of all, and you change your thinking on pricing and money, and change your money mindset, and you make that leap into dealing with the higher end customers in your market, it just creates a much better business for you, and it eliminates so much stress and anxiety, and it's all because of a little bit of a perspective shift. And so those are two kind of revelations I made today. I know it's nothing crazy. It's not like that deep or anything, but when I put it into perspective like that, it kind of got the wheels in my head spinning. And yeah, it was just a cool thing that I thought about. And I was like, wow, looking back that's exactly how things went. And it goes to show that mindset really does matter a lot in business. I used to be someone who thought that all that mindset, motivation, sort of manifestation stuff was nonsense, but you can't do the things you want to do if you have a limiting mindset or if you have limiting beliefs. So if the way for you to get from A to B in your business is to do C, and in your mind you don't think C works, then you're never going to be able to do that because you have a limiting belief. But if you just push that to the side, if you just shift your mindset to the side and it's not even in the question anymore, and you just do the thing that's necessary, then you get to where you want to be. And so I guess the point of today's episode is just expand your thinking a little bit, push through hardships, embrace failure, and try to adopt an abundance mindset. Try to move away from that scarcity mindset and that scarcity way of thinking. And it's going to make you a much better business owner. It's going to make you a much better entrepreneur. It's going to make you a much better person once you kind of open your mind up and, I don't know, transcend in a way, because I certainly feel like I've transcended through this journey, and it's turned me into a much deeper thinker, as weird as that sounds, but I feel like a new person comparing myself to who I was when I started my business. And I see a lot of people who, when they get to that point in their business journey where they're successful and they have the money, they have what they want, that's when they start to reflect back on themselves and they start to develop their health, and they look at their mind and figure out ways they can improve their mindset and their mentality, because people, once they've made the money, they realize that the money wasn't the important thing all along, and that it was their mindset and their health. And so maybe rearrange the steps a little bit and put your mindset before, the business, because once you have your mind right, then everything else will follow suit. The business will do well. You're going to get to where you want to be. And it's all because of a little perspective shift. It's all because of a little outside of the box thinking. And it's something that I had to come to terms with, because I was so anti that to the point where it was limiting me from where I wanted to be. It was prohibiting me from being a really good business owner. And that's not to say I've figured it out, because, well, I haven't, okay? I haven't figured it out, but I'm figuring it out, and I know that I'm on the path to building a really good business. And I hope that as you come along with me for this journey, and you have your own journey as well, that you can kind of improve with me and you can grow with me, because this is a really cool and fun journey, and it can be really rewarding if we just think the right way and have the right mindset. So yeah, that's a couple of things I wanted to leave with you today. I hope that you got something out of this. Hope it got you thinking a little bit, and I hope it gave you a bit of motivation to just stick through it, because that's all it is. That's all business is, especially in the beginning, is you just have to push through all that hardship and that failure and embrace it. So thanks for listening to episode 7 of Self-Made. I believe it's episode 7. I'll be back in episode 8. I'm probably going to do a Q&A thing. I'll ask a couple questions on TikTok or whatever, and I'm going to pick like 5 of the best questions, and I'm going to go deep on them, and that's going to be the next episode. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to post on TikTok soon and ask for your questions, and I'll see you in the next one.